Nancy, can you talk about acceleration clauses and what that means?
Sure. So, what an acceleration clause does is it basically allows the buyer to design an offer that allows them basically to feel comfortable with not overpaying relative to the competition, but allows their offer to grow depending on the other bids or offers that have been submitted. So, for example, let's assume there's a house for $200,000 that's listed. The buyer knows in our market that house is likely, if it was priced right, to go for at least 10% more than that 200,000 or around 220. And so the question becomes, what would be the drop dead price that this buyer would be willing to pay for this particular home? Maybe it's $205,000, let's say. They could basically start their offer at, if the list price was 200, I might start it at 210, their initial offer above list, showing that they have a huge interest in the property, but they're willing to pay $1,000, let's say, more than any other verifiable offer up to that $225,000 mark or 226, and there's some strategy and negotiation here because you're trying to game what the end might be to win that house, with the idea that if the best offer that's out there is at, let's say, 216, this buyer would end up paying 217 and not the entire 225, and they could feel good that they didn't overpay for a home. So in a nutshell, that's kind of how it works. Now, I'll be honest, we've had a lot of pushback in the last 6 months from listing agents that don't like these acceleration clauses. They think that the buyer should just go to their end game and the highest offer overall should win. And so I do think an important question for the agent and the buyer to ask the listing agent is are you agreeable to an acceleration clause? Because if they're not, you're shooting yourself in the foot potentially. And if your buyer is willing to buy that house at 2.25, you probably ought to submit that offer as your best offer with all the other things. And I think appraisal gap coverage is probably the most important right now, based on the facts that you brought to light, Larry, which is 20 to 25% of the time, because the market is growing and there's such pressure on pricing due to low inventory right now. You know, the appraiser is a snapshot in time and a conservative kind of look back. They're not in our current fight. And even with showing multiple offers, they can't go there most of the time. They just really can't.
And part of that 25% shortage that the state of Michigan is seeing on appraisals, a lot of those, well over half of those, are always worked out from the standpoint of some sort of renegotiation or the appraisal guarantee or acceleration clauses. Just because your home doesn't appraise doesn't mean the deal's dead. And that's why working with professional realtor, lenders really works, so they know how to navigate buyers and sellers through that. One of the points on this page talks about maximizing the purchaser's mortgageability. So often, our loan officers, if a buyer is going to put 20% down, might discuss with them going into their offer what 5 or 10% down looks like versus 20, so that they can cover some or all of that gap in the price of the home. It's critical from a lending standpoint that we're giving our buyers all options, because you never know what's going to happen in a transaction from the appraisal piece. So working with a professional, guiding everybody through is of the utmost importance.